Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another special episode of Herschel Talkers. We got Big Sean returning back. How we doing today, Sean?
Doing good. How are we doing, Trey?
Doing all right. Georgia coming off the bye week. Looks like the big question this week is going to be, we got Georgia's playing Kentucky. Current point spread is 15.5. What do you think Georgia needed to work on in the bye week, Sean?
I mean, the question is really what didn't they need to work on?
After coming off the 41-24 beatdown of Bama.
Bama, to me, it's absolutely amazing, and I do have to eat a little bit of crow here because I was pretty confident going into that game for Georgia. It really was. I thought that the change in offensive staff, I thought the early season struggles of Bama's defense maybe gave us enough, and plus Saban's COVID scare, I'm sure didn't help matters. I thought that collectively maybe gave us enough to
He's distracted.
Eke one out in Tuscaloosa, but this thing was probably a bigger blowout than any of the two other times we've met them of late. To me, it honestly brings up kind of what I think is kind of a seminal moment in Kirby Smart's career. For the longest, I felt two things have been, the problem with him. And the first one has to do with, his offensive philosophy. He's a defensive guy. He's obviously got a bias towards making certain that side of the ball stays fresh. And he kind of holds it to a different standard, right? Yeah. Offensively, he's not that way at all. It's almost like, he just wants to run the ball. He just doesn't want to commit a turnover and almost make his defense, put his defense in a bad spot to give up points. Like, I obviously understand, and I think, I understand that he understands he needs to score points, to win a game. But he just seems like he kind of wants to just run the ball, be super conservative, kind of like the Baltimore Ravens or Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the early 2000s. And he's really only, interested in passing to the extent that it keeps the defense honest and, prevents them from able to stack 8 in the box. But he's got to change the way he does offense because the reality is, I think Nick Saban said it, the game of football's changed. Like, it used to be that the best defense, would beat the best offense. And now because of these rule changes, that's not the case. You've got to invest as much as you can into the offense.
So he said that the other day, Friday. Did you hear that when he had an interview with Chris Lowe? I was going to bring that up. He basically came out, he goes, first off, you can tell I don't like it, but to win these days, elite offenses beat elite defenses. He goes, Georgia's defense was about equal to us on offense, but we still hung 41 on them. So
and that whole about equal thing, that's where he's just saying that for not to give, Georgia Baltimore material. I mean, the offenses were nowhere remotely close to being equal. And I think the reality of the situation is outside of the offensive line, which I think Kirby has tremendously improved since the Mark Richt era, I feel like as a whole, the offense, especially the quarterback and the skill position players have declined way worse than anything we had under the Richt era. I mean, even when we had Grayson Lambert back there, or we had Joe Cox, we still had pretty effective skill players. I mean, I understand Zeus White had like the knee injury or whatever, but, geez Louise, we don't even have anybody the quality of just like a Sony Michel back there at running back right now. And he wants to run a power-based run game. Yeah. The quarterback situation's a complete joke. I mean, the fact that, and again, I think some of this is bad luck. I do. It's really not his fault that, Jamie Newman decided to opt it out, right? He can't help the fact that JT Daniels had a setback with his knee and wasn't able to play. And he really can't help the fact that Jake Fromm probably made a poor decision in going early to the draft. But, at the same time, I think the bigger issue here is that, you've had DeJuan Mathis on campus for, 2 years now? And I understand he had some, a brain injury last year or surgery. But it's clear that kid is completely unprepared when he went into that game against Arkansas. Yeah. I mean, Stetson Bennett was kind of, completely unprepared when he played against Alabama for what they were going to try and do. I mean, at some point, it's just the buck has to stop with him. Like, even if all you want is a game manager, at least have one out there that's prepared. The fact that there really hasn't been any kind of work with Stetson Bennett on finding passing lanes either. The fact that he's 5'9" doesn't really matter, right? As long as he can kind of effectively move in the pocket and find passing lanes. Yep. But when he kind of stands there like a statue, it's just too easy to bat his balls down.
Yeah. Like I watched, we were texting the other day. It was a great reminder. First off, I'm not even going to put the kid in the same planet as these guys, but had Kyler Murray for Arizona Cardinals against Russell Wilson the other night. I know, first off, elite NFL, probably top 5 guys, top 10 quarterbacks. But they matched them up 5'9", 5'10". Kyler Murray, I mean, they're so quick, but none of those had batted down balls, and they could like roll out and they could see, their lanes that they're throwing in. So, and
that's another thing when you talk about the rollouts. Why didn't we ever like roll out Stetson Bennett or haven't tried to implement that? Yeah. Like into the offense. The other thing too is that, I get that, you got to use the guy that's most effective, in moving the ball. But, as soon as Kirby, DeJuan Mathis effectively scared the crap out of Kirby Smart with his performance, that kid season, you might as well put a tombstone on his season. It was done. Yeah. And it's done because – if Stetson Bennett had gotten hurt, you're right back in the same position because there's nobody behind Stetson that's really ready. So when you had these big leads against, Tennessee and Arkansas, why aren't you using that to give him some meaningful reps in a game? Look, maybe it doesn't make a difference, but how do you know until you try?
Exactly. So I'm to the point. Here's my brutal honest. Like, I like Kirby. We've done great with him, but is he basically Rick 2.0 with better recruiting? Is that where we're at? You're winning the East, but that's it, and you're running into Alabama and LSU.
I don't know if it's fair to say that he's Rick 2.0. I feel like his work ethic is a lot better than Rick's was. I mean, I'd say I think Rick was kind of lazy, especially towards the end. I mean, he would do enough, but like –
I think that 2012 broke his back, and he was burnt out those last 3 or 4 years. I agree.
I think he was burned out way before that. I mean, I just don't think he was – part of it was I think he was just used to working under Bobby Bowden and just, working at a basic dynasty where just everybody was flocking to come to play for you, and then not really having head coaching experiences going to the SEC, it may have been a bit beyond him. Yeah. May have been other factors there at once. It doesn't really matter, I guess. I do feel like Kirby Smart's at a seminable time in his career. This is what's either going to decide, is this guy going to take the next step and become a national championship level coach, or is he going to go behind? And he's got to hold the quarterbacks the same standard. I mean, every other position on the field, on defense, right? Yeah. On offense, they can still hurt you and lose games, right? Mm-hmm. Missed tackle here, missed assignment, whatever else. Any of that can, hurt your team. But he still gives those freshmen opportunities to play. Like, all he has, like these young quarterbacks do, is hand the ball off. That doesn't do the team any good. It's doing them a disservice. It really is.
I agree. I'm with you.
And the other thing offensively is like, look, I get that you're like a defensive guy, but like observe things. I'll give Saban credit for understanding like that the game had changed and, that he needed to adapt. Yeah. Kirby was there when they implemented some of that spread stuff, and he's seen what LSU and, Alabama have done. He just needs to embrace the same and do it.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll tell you too is I think he needs to change his defensive scheme, and I felt that way for a while. It's just too – because these offenses are all pass-based now, and it's all about pass rushers, right? Mm-hmm. It's really hard to – when you don't recruit 5-star defensive linemen, which, let's face it, we don't. We get, diamond in the rough 3 stars and 4 stars and an occasional 5-star here and there on the defensive line. But if you don't have a defensive line that can effectively penetrate an offensive line, those outside linebackers really aren't going to do much in the way of sacks. I mean, I understand that, we're quietly leading the SEC in sacks right now, but it's not like we're setting the world's hair on fire. And this is supposed to be, on paper, one of the most talented defenses in the history of the universe, if you read some of the on-air preseason predictions, right?
Yeah.
to me, you're just better off going back to a 4-3. It's way easier to recruit defensive ends. It's way easier to get to the quarterback. There's just not a lot of people or defensive linemen that you're going to be able to convince to come in there and take double teams for minimum sacks. I mean, what's it going to do for them?
Yeah.
Kirby's got to he's just got to change. I mean, again, I don't blame him for JT Daniels re-injuring his knee. I don't blame him for Jamie Newman. I do blame him for the fact that, the quarterbacks that are out there are seemingly completely unprepared, And again, I know he's got Monken and he did make some changes in the offseason and give credit where credit's due. But, I feel like at the same time, he's still got his thumb a bit on that offense, right? It's just like when you see like run, pass, everybody knows where that's coming from. It's not coming from Todd Monken.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
These quarterbacks are your resource. It's like trying to run an offense in basketball and saying, you want to know what? We're not going to worry about the three-pointer. Three-pointer is everything in basketball now.
Yeah, threes instead of twos.
Kirby's trying to win with a Shaq-like offense. You want to know what the perfect example is? I don't know if our listeners watch the NBA Finals, but the Georgia Bulldogs are literally the Miami Heat. They're trying to play 1990s basketball. And the LA Lakers are the Alabamas and the Ohio States of the world that actually have modern offenses. And the other thing, too, is if you look at Ohio State and Clemson, you can have, an offense that puts up 70s and can still, have a great defense. That's the one area where I'll disagree with Nick Saban, too. Like, you can have a great defense. I think that for whatever reason, it's a lot easier to do out of a 4-3 system right now. I think because it's easier to get, good pass rushers. You're not as reliant on, 0 and 3 technique defensive tackles.
Yeah.
But that's the way you got to do it.
Yeah, then looking right here at stats, I brought that up. So Georgia's 19th. I know a lot of these teams, only played one game, but they did give up 41. And then, Kentucky's quietly 20th. So. Yeah,
and those stats will end up going back down. I mean, they will. How many points has Georgia given up a game?
It's like 19 and a half, but, they gave up 41. I mean, you're going to go against some, anemic offenses coming up. Florida probably put up some points. We should shut them down. But, the Missouris and Mississippi State, I think you just run zone and shut down that air raid. So I think a lot of that's going to go down.
Yeah. I mean, that's 100% the case. I mean, and here's the thing. Like, I don't understand where, like, if you're Brock Vandergrip's parents, like, why aren't you really, like, screaming or at least questioning, like, the decision to let this kid even come to Georgia? I mean, to me, that, like, boggles my mind because, the quarterback position is so completely underwhelmed, underdeveloped, underutilized, based on what we've seen from Kirby. Like, why would you send – you'd be better off sending him to Dan Mullen, honestly. I mean, people aren't going to want to hear that, but it's the truth.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think
there's no point sending your kid to fucking Kirby Smart. I mean, after what I've seen, how he's handled, like, DeJuan Mathis and some of these other guys, fuck that. Yeah. Fuck that. Like, go someplace – send him to Mike send him to Mike Leach at Mississippi State.
Playing around,
I mean, yeah. Well, it's like the opposite, right? If you've got an elite defensive end and that's your son, are you really going to send him to go play for Lincoln Riley?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. All right. So, looking the elephant in the room, looking together, looking, ahead to this week, got Georgia, Kentucky. I think it's 14.5. Started at 15.5 point spread. I think the mailman Bennett's going to start, but I know everything you read last week, Daniels a week. So what would you like to see this week for us to maybe ease Daniels in, or do you see a couple series? What would you like to see realistically?
I mean, I honestly want to see two things, right? I want to see them start to give DeJuan Mathis meaningful reps because regardless of what happens with Daniels, I mean, and whatever Daniels is ready, nobody knows because Kirby won't tell anything, and but the kid's got a skill set. You might as well utilize it, and help him try to develop his passing, set as well. I mean, geez, if that came along, I mean, that would go a long way for our offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'd like to see, Daniels get reps, presuming he's healthy enough to do so. I mean, I want to see all three quarterbacks get some time. I mean,
I'll take one.
What's that?
I said I'll take one, and I wanted to see them actually release the ball from their hand and not hand the ball off. I don't want mop-up duty. Run some meaningful series to get the guy, whoever it is. I like to see Daniels, but if I had to pick is maybe we get up 28-7 early third quarter, mid-third quarter, and Daniels gets in and actually does 2 or 3 series. I think would be great. See how he looks, actually throw the ball.
But unless if I'm incredibly wrong, here's probably what you're going to see. Like probably the first series, they'll give him a couple of passes here and there, right? But then other than that, it's just going to be run, wind the clock down, run, like wind the clock down.
Here's the thing. How about this?
I mean, for all the things he does to try to protect his defense, like what good does it really do? They got their ass kicked against Alabama. They're completely gashed. It didn't do a damn bit of good. And then you've got an offense who you basically view as a liability that acts like one, There's only so far they're going to go. You know what I mean?
I agree. How about this, though? How about if, let's say, Bennett comes out, throws a couple picks or pick six, because quietly I think they're second or first in interceptions, Kentucky. What do you do if he struggles real bad? I don't know. Let's say you're down 14-7, 17-7 halftime. He has a terrible first half.
Well, let me answer that by, giving you a question. What option do we really have? Because we don't know anything about JT Daniels, and we know DeJuan Mathis, certainly wasn't ready against Arkansas. I mean, is this kid progressed at all or not? Or are we completely foobarred?
I don't know. I just feel like we had the whole bye week is supposedly, Kirby, had a lot of – they gave him a lot of extra reps, but I don't know.
What is that, a miracle sponge, though? Is a bye week a miracle sponge that just completely wipes all the dirt away from your program's problems? I mean, that's just – Jesus Christ. How much can you possibly fix? All of this started way before the season started.
Yeah.
It's just –
Georgia fans are frustrated. We're here. We're here for you. You got all.
Look, I understand that probably from scheme standpoints, he probably knows more about football than I do, but I can read a scoreboard as well as anybody. And the thing is that I can tell what teams are doing to get on the scoreboard as well as anybody, and what we're doing isn't it.
Yeah. And I just feel like, no offense to him, it's a great story, but the mailman is not the answer. I think everybody knows that. He's got limitations,
Well, and the thing we're not talking about, right, is, and what's maybe a little bit sad is, let's just say we had beaten Alabama. Yeah. He's still not good enough to beat Clemson or Ohio State.
I agree. And that's where we want to be, because we're that program. We've recruited well enough to be that top tier,
Kirby's underperformed with what he's got, to be completely honest.
Almost is that a knock on him? He's not evaluating. He's getting these kids, they're not evaluating, or they're not progressing at Georgia like other teams.
I don't know if it's that they're not evaluating, because I think you're going to end up seeing a lot of kids that, get drafted for the next year or so, especially off that defense and off the offensive line. Last year's, who were all his recruits? He put 2 offensive linemen first round.
Yeah. Early second round.
Yeah, and what's his name? It's down in Miami, the offensive guard. He's doing really well. So, he's getting certain positions to perform well, I guess.
Yeah, top 5 pick with Andrew Thomas. That was big for offensive linemen,
Yeah. The issue, though, is that, there's a serious lack of quarterbacks on that list and wide receivers that he's just got to, he's got to improve upon it. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah. Looking ahead to the game, Kentucky not the greatest offense.
I don't even know why we're going to bother to talk about that, because it's completely irrelevant, other than the fact that, are we going to see JT Daniels and DeJuan Mathis play some, or is Kirby going to continue to keep his head in his ass?
Exactly.
I think you can win your Bill Cowher in '95 with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I feel like if you see Bennett start Kentucky and Foley all the way through Florida, he's your man down the stretch, and you'll probably make it back to Atlanta, but you'll get blasted again. It is what it is.
And again, I just want to emphasize again, Brock Vandergriff, if you're listening to this, pay mighty close attention to if there's a quarterback that comes in after Stetson Bennett, if it's just run, pass. And if it is, based off of what we just saw 2 weeks ago, this motherfucker is never going to learn his lesson and run the other way.
Mm-hmm.
I will not hate you at all if you go to Florida at that point.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, give us a pick. 14-point spread on this one. 12 o'clock nooner game.
Who cares? Like, I mean, you know you're going to win, right? I mean, like, so winning and losing isn't really like the issue there. It's really about, especially after you come off a loss on a bye week, you know we're going to win. That's completely irrelevant. Who cares? The issue, again, let's go back, is are we going to see some of these changes or not? That's what people really care about.
I agree. All right, well, I'm going to give a pick. I got 28-10. I think we'll lean on them a little bit, and I hope we, are able to see a little bit of Daniels in the second half. That would make me happy.
And maybe some DeJuan Mathis, too. I mean, the thing is he sits – I mean, I want to see both. Like, if it's really like this, you've got a kid with a skill set. You know what I mean? I don't see why you don't utilize it. I mean, I'm sure there's some throws this kid could make, right? Certain plays that he's pretty good at. So why don't you at least develop that over the season and let it either build into something else or not? But there's got to be some reads this kid can make.
Yeah, I agree.
But, he doesn't want to do that because literally, like, he views quarterbacks like a nuclear, like, warhead, basically. And, like, the red button on a nuclear warhead. I mean, just it's a matter of time before that fucker gets pushed, and it's just, it's kind of how he looks at it.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people want to blame him for, like, Justin Fields, like, transferring or whatever. Like, I mean, honestly, that's completely revisionist history. There was nothing we really saw from Justin Fields when he was here that one year that would indicate that he was going to do what he's done.
Yeah, and then, Chaney and Coley could have, even if he stayed, misused him and just he'd have been running from his life.
I mean, never mind the he'd probably still be getting misused. You'd probably just be using him to, like, handle point after attempts.
Yeah. Fake punt in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, the worst move ever.
I got 28-10. Dawgs win. All right, well, let's jump in and talk a little recruiting because we did get a little bit last week. So, number 6 altogether. I know Sean wasn't on here the last couple of weeks. So, how big was I know we leaned for a while. How big was the Amarius Mims pickup on 14?
Again, I mean, yeah, it's big, right? I mean, you clearly are going to need a left tackle after next year because Jeremy Sawyer is probably going to go in the first round of the draft next year. I'd be highly surprised if he didn't.
I think he's plug and play like Andrew Thomas could. You said he liked that kid, right? Pancake, this beast.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think he's probably carrying too much weight, which is what we suspected was a big issue with.
Dude, he's only 315. They said.
Yeah, but remember before, I think he reported in like at 350, I believe, and then he got down to like 330. But it was probably when he was playing guard, it was still too much weight. Now he's down to 315.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they say it's like a good weight because he's so big. It's like he's not fat; he's just big. I heard large individual.
Yeah, and just seems like a great kid too.
Oh, yeah, good on the mic, likes going hunting, fishing. You got to give it to, I know you said Brock Vandegrift run the other way, but I think BVG had a big relationship.
Oh, yeah, unquestionably.
Picked up Kamari Lassiter. Sean turns his nose up at 3 stars, but I actually heard this guy's really good under the radar, like kind of long and lean. He makes good. So I think that was a pretty good pickup. And I think, Auburn and Clemson wanted him. So that's a pretty good pickup.
Well, at the end of the day, regardless of whether the 3 stars or 5 stars, time will tell, right?
Yeah. It looks like coming up, I think, is it Friday? Looking at the prospect list, we know we want that guy, Sean. How you feel about him?
I mean, I guess fine. I mean, I haven't set up a tent in his backyard. I mean, people seem to think that Georgia's been trending for a while. So, I mean,
looks like we're trending towards Mondin. Remember him? He's locking it down. He's going to say November 18th, even though he's got the knee injury.
That's true. Speaking of Mondin and recruiting, getting that national championship level is going to be big for Kirby too, because I think you're going to see his recruiting start to take a dip because Clemson's really kind of rated Georgia year in, year out. They rated Jacksonville quite a bit too, and Upper Florida. Yeah. But we were able to compensate for that a lot by going into South Florida. We're not going into South Florida like we used to because we understandably so parted with
about Coley,
James Coley.
Yeah.
And so you kind of got to, a lot of these kids, they're going to want to go play for like a winner. Like Barrett Carr, that was a big loss for us.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to Clemson. And so being able to get that guy that believes, hey, I can win a championship at Georgia.
Yeah.
Like, based on what I've seen over the last couple of years, I don't know how any of those kids believe that without major changes, the championship's coming here at Georgia. I mean, he's just got to change the way he does things. I mean, I give Kirby a lot of credit for switching with Mondon. Maybe he's a little slow to the draw, but, like, he's got to make that change.
Yeah. So it looks like, is it Friday, I believe, Nyland Green's going to announce? This will be a pretty good pickup, right? Have you seen anything on him?
So is that TID and Nyland Green are both deciding the same day?
Remember, this was a crystal ball for him. I think Ingram or Dawkins is going to be Friday. I apologize. But this one's coming up soon, too.
Oh.
This kid's pretty good, right? I mean, it looks, 50-50. I think Clemson was trending for a while, but we kind of sneaking in the back door.
Yeah, I guess.
80 guy. And we're losing 7 guys over there, so this will be a big pickup for depth,
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'll be good to get Ingram Dawkins out of South Carolina because we've whiffed there. What is that Sinkridge guy we missed a couple years ago? He was
down in South Carolina.
Yeah, and then also Jordan Burch was flirting with us. And it seems like we just any guy.
Or Zach Pickens was the dude we missed, right?
Yeah, so it was 2 defensive tackles that flirted with us, and they went to South. Seems like South Carolina, who's their D-line coach, has really been closing recently.
Well, and I mean, Boone can recruit. I mean, when a lot of these kids are right there in your, backyard, I mean, stay home.
Hey, speaking of that, a name that they I heard on one of the podcasts I listened to was, Boone is 2-3, got blasted by LSU. If they got rid of him, how about Sark going to South Carolina? Man, he's putting up some great numbers with at Alabama.
I mean, he is, but the thing is to turn that program around, like, dude, that's just a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Be smarter than that. Don't ever, like, go to some program where there's actually, like, a talent base. Like, do what Kirby did.
Yeah. But he didn't have the greatest history, though, Sarkisian, Got a little drinking problem. USC wasn't great. Bounced around a little bit.
Yeah, and I think you got to give him some credit for that, though, too. That, I mean, he's had that, and for all we know, it seems like that's kind of, like, been taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah, so this guy's Friday, I believe. This will be a big pickup. Let's see if Trey Scott can close. 6'5", 295, Gaffney, right in South Carolina's backyard.
Mm-hmm.
A little lean here. Hey, when Whitfong said something, it's usually he's legit. And get back.
Normally the gospel.
Yep. So that'll be a big pickup. Any other big ones that you want? If we get those, and then do we have enough for like Arnold, Sorey, Smith, and we can only get 23, right?
I think we can probably get more than that.
Yeah. But I mean, if they're all there, you can take them, right?
Yeah, plus you don't really know if some of these kids are going to, like, decommit. And
bounce around.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a lot to look at. And then next week we'll have the cocktail party, which we definitely need to win that one.
Yeah, I mean, because I think Xavier and Soiree and Arnold are both, they seem to think that the winner of that game gets both of those guys. So
another thing I wanted to mention is it was 26, 28. I think it's 30, 31. Do you think that's going to benefit Georgia? I know they had 2 bye weeks, but Florida actually hadn't even been able to practice together to their facility for 2 weeks. Do you think that kind of backs them up? I know a lot of people might say, hey, they get the rest or whatever, but not being able to practice for 2 weeks and not being around.
I mean, it probably does. I think Florida had a lot more issues than that, namely the lack of defense, the lack of a running game, the lack of a receiver outside of Pitts, although, that kid from Penn State seemed like he was kind of providing some secondary options. I mean –
About Grantham, what do you think about him, 3rd and Grantham?
I mean, if you couldn't beat us last year and you actually had some, like, decent pass rushers, I don't think you're going to do it this year.
Exactly. Lean on.
Mm-hmm. It really does for all of the shade I throw. You kind of do need to be be able to run and pass the ball and be multidimensional to beat the talent on that Georgia defense. So,
all right, buddy. Anything else you want to get off the chest? I like it. We got a salty Sean going off on Kirby.
No, I mean, just, Kirby, if you're listening, dude, like, take your head out of the sand. I mean, even Swamp Monster down there in LSU figured it out. And he's not exactly a Rhodes Scholar.
Hey, they're putting up 52 at the backup court against the Gamecocks. They're doing okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous.
I hate to say we got a 5'9" shorter gentleman.
Yeah, and I don't blame him. You know what I mean? Like, to me, like, he's kind of a story of inspiration. Everything that he went through and the fact that he guided us 3-1, dude, like, that guy will have my respect for the rest, unless he does something like crazy when he leaves. But for what he did on the football field, I have my respect for the rest of his life.
Yeah. But he's one of those, remember, it's kind of like.
But the bigger issue is, why is he in the position to even do that to begin with?
I agree. We knew this would end. Here's what we originally wanted, Sean, and maybe Kirby will get head out of his butt. Remember, originally we go make it 3-0, 3-1, get blasted by Alabama. This is our diabolical plan, and put Daniels in Kentucky or Florida when you need him. Remember, this is all what we wanted. So, if Kirby,
you know what's sad though? We used to have these same thoughts about Mark Richt, right? Or we're just like, man, we hope this happens, so then we'll kind of like figure it out, rather than just like, it's a shame when the guy is getting paid $8 million or whatever Kirby is a season, can't figure this out,
I agree. All right, well, make sure to rate and subscribe, get the views up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. A little lower last week, but I hope it gets up. But that's another Herschel Talkers, and we're out.
All right.